Just let it go, and then I'll just start whenever I feel like it.
Yeah.
Is it
If
going?
you have
Yeah,
any
it
sort
is
of
going.
access to, if you're going to edit it off, you can just trim. The
She's
easiest thing
the
to do is
computer person.
the easiest
Okay.
thing to do is just to have it already going when we start, rather than standing there as if we're waiting for the firing squad, to start up.
Yeah. So anyway, my name is Gerhard, and this is the brand new space, our space, and I'm here with Naomi. And essentially, what's going to happen is I'm going to ask her a question, kind of a leading question, and then that's all that I have prepared. We'll just have a conversation. It'll go for as long as the conversation lasts, and then when I go like this, she'll stop recording. So, I guess the question that I have is, what is it about the manifesto that has led you to commit your life to the tradition of Karl Marx?
Well, first of all, I'm sorry to say it's not the manifesto.
Okay.
I mean, and in a way, it's a cheat, because I came from a communist family. My parents had been party members in their youth. I grew up, hearing politics talked at the dining room table every night. So my own personal experience isn't really that useful. It's not that representative for people who were brought up without the benefit of that, knowledge already being imparted to them.
That's really sorry. I don't want to cut you off, but that's really surprising to me, because when we meet under the banner of Marx, all we do is talk about the old stuff, right? I don't know that we talk about like what it's like to grow up in a communist family and stuff like that. I don't know.
Well, it's not about my family, right? I mean, basically, it's just, if you want to tell me about your family, that's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's important, because, people, especially in this, sort of late stage capitalism, people struggle with even just like making a living, worry about what's going to happen to their kids. Is their education going to give them any really solid foundation, either for a job or as a kind of moral foundation? Are they going to be able to afford a place to live? I mean, there's all these, people have these real issues. I mean, we need to, we need to meet people where they are and what they're worried about.
I want to get back there for 1 second, because I'm a child and youth care worker by trade, right? And we look at ways to access our family without crossing boundaries, right? And what I'm hearing from you is that you grew up very different from me. I grew up in a Christian family, and I grew up in a certain way, and I've never heard of anybody who grew up in a communist family, right? But there's some heart there. There's some heart there. I don't need to know like your mom's name or something, but I would like to hear more about like, just like kind of like what it means to grow up. I mean, I did not expect you to say that. That blew me away. But now I want to know, obviously your friends' families weren't, your schoolmates weren't communists.
Right.
Like what was it like to be, were you the only communist, or did you find other communists?
Well, I found some like-minded people in my teens. Right? Well, for one thing, yes, you do have to be, to a certain extent, argumentative. You have to be willing to take a minority position. As long as we're living in a capitalist system, when the working class is not the ruling class, that means we're in the adversarial position. Right now, really, we're in a defensive position.
Yeah, but
we haven't reached the historical stage of like we're going over to the offensive, where the working class is going to actually take power. So you have to be able to live with the fact that you're in a minority and you're in opposition. That you're going to, some of the things you say are going to be unpopular.
Is it possible that you put yourself into a minority position?
Well, I have to say, when I was young, I was more argumentative and more contrarian.
Yeah.
I took a certain amount of pleasure from being in the minority position. I'd pick fights.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the, debate as a sport. Like trying to figure out how I could take the most extreme position and twist and turn to justify it. Well, gradually over time, as I grew up and dealt with more real world issues in my own family and work life and so on. And joined the party and gained some experience of serious political work. Now I'm not interested in just being contrary, being a contrarian for its own sake. I don't want to just fight for the pleasure of using debate as a sport.
Yeah.
My ambition is to be absolutely ordinary, that there should be absolutely nothing unusual about me.
Yeah.
I want to be in the dead center of public opinion on all issues.
Yeah.
Not by changing my opinion, but by having public opinion shift over and join us.
I need to shift this one more time, because I just had an idea. Kingston, do you want to be in this video? No? No? Oh. Janae, do you want to be in this video? No? Oh, okay. Anyways, I have a 9-year-old here, and there's something missing, and how would you sell communism to a 9-year-old? Because I think that if you could sell communism to a 9-year-old and get the heart down to it, that you could get it to other people, because I'm on the street talking to people about communism. I call myself a progressive Marxist, and they said, what does that mean? And I said, that means that I value time and I value human life, and everything is a extension of that, right? And for me, that's kind of the heart of Marx. I didn't grow up in a communist thing, but I'm like, what is the heart of it? And then when I'm talking to people, I kind of narrow it down, but I think that I'm going to shift gears again. My family's in Germany, and my mom is like appalled that I'm a Marxist, because in Germany the stigma for communism is so bad that they don't play cowboys and Indians there. They play Germans and communists, right? And they go, the Reds are coming, and they chase each other, right? But there's such a stigma around that word, isn't there? And
well, there is and there isn't. They also, when they do public opinion surveys in some of the former socialist countries, sometimes they'll get sizable majorities wishing that they still had a socialist state, preferring the old days to how it is now.
Yeah.
So I guess it's partly it's how you ask, who you ask and how you ask and when you ask.
But I kind of want to put you on the spot, but I don't want to make you uncomfortable. And I'm wondering if you would be able to describe it to me like a 9-year-old, like I was a 9-year-old.
Okay, well, I'm a little trouble with that because I try not to talk down to people.
No, it's not. It's
okay. If we're talking to children, I don't really think that we would necessarily start with describing, Marx's theory of economics.
Oh yeah.
Right. When we talk. Eventually,
everybody
needs to know something about economics.
What if you just?
But if we talk about community, the values of community, like how important it is to take care of other people.
Explain how you're talking to me, like I'm a 9-year-old. Talk to me like I'm someone who's never heard of this, and you want to share your heart, which your heart is for people. Your heart is when you see the people hurting around you that are hurting under a system, and you fought for 25 years and it breaks your heart. And you see people working at Walmart and you know that they're only making in a year what Doug McMillan is making in a minute. You know that, right? And you see it breaks your heart. You see all these people being mistreated because of the system, and you know there's something better, right? And you're not telling me that. What you're telling me is stuff that isn't relevant to me. And like for me, when I told my daughter, I said, she said, what is all of this about, right? And I said, okay, so a guy starts a business for $10, but he needs help. So he gets a friend and they partner, and they each get $5. To me, that's the heart of communism. It's where you get to a child, right? Now, but if you get to capitalism, what the guy does is let's assume that the $5 is a living wage. What he does is he takes $6 for himself, and he goes home and he pays two workers each $2 a day. So they get 40% of a living wage, while the other guy sits and does nothing, right? And it sounds silly, but that's what Walmart does, right? And that's capitalism, right? And communism is where I have a YouTube project, right? I set it all up, but I don't feel healthy to run it. So I gave it to my best friend, I said, as soon as it's monetized, we split the money. That's communism, right? I decide to sell all of my stuff that I don't like. Everything that's not in here is in the basement, and my daughter's starting an Amazon store. She's going to do all the work to sell it, and then we split the money. So that's a communist endeavor, right?
No.
No?
I mean,
it
sounds like a fair and decent way to run a small business.
Let me interject. I'm calling it progressive Marxism. I'm calling it progressive Marxism. There is nobody else who's calling anything like that. It's not traditional communism. I don't usually use the word communism, so I'm just sort of trying to bring it in for you because I'm trying to show how I explain progressive Marxism in the hopes that you could see how I explain it and maybe explain communism, strict communism, in a similar, relatable way. Does that? Yeah.
Okay, so we have, in the modern world, we have like science and technology. We have the capacity to provide abundance for everyone, an abundance of all the basic necessities of life, food and clothing and housing and transportation and education and healthcare and clean water and and arts and sports and just all. There's an abundance available. There's a potential abundance available.
Mm-hmm.
Why doesn't everybody have it?
Yeah.
Well, because the organization of how things are produced is that the main sources of production are in private hands, and they are producing for the purpose of extracting profit from it, not for the purpose of supplying people's needs.
Yeah.
We have to get from A to B, to where the purpose of production is to fulfill people's needs. Now, so we can go into detail about the technicalities of how exploitation works, but basically that's it.
Yeah.
There could be enough for everybody.
Yeah.
There isn't not because of our incapacity to produce, but because of the mode of production is in private hands for the purpose of extracting profit from people's labor, rather than using the fruits of people's labor for people's benefit.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the question of who, the question of really setting up a Facebook channel, whether somebody makes money from it or not, it is not really the central issue of the economy. The central issue of the economy is do people have food? Do people have housing? Do people have medical care? Do people have work?
Mm-hmm. I wonder if a type of what I've branded as progressive Marxism could be a step to a more pure communism, because if people start treating each other fair, because people don't treat each other generally very fair, right? We're really wrapped up with money. We have this couch here, and I just gave it away. I don't care because I was doing something, right? And I wanted my friend to have it. But people don't typically help each other. But I wonder if people just being decent to each other on a frontline level, between citizens, if that would start to stir things up, where you could start to, because I just lost my train of thought. If people,
I think I get what you
mean. Yeah, give me, because if people suddenly see themselves, people don't see themselves as being very valuable. People see themselves as deserving what they get, right? Mm-hmm. And then they treat each other badly. Mm-hmm. But I wonder if people started treating each other nicely, then they would start to feel like they have value and maybe start standing up for themselves. And kind of a progressive Marxist approach where you're kind to people and you just speak more from your heart than from history, that could be a launch pad for a more pure communism.
Well, certainly not going to be against people treating each other well. And I'm certainly not going to be against people, developing more self-respect and self-esteem from the experience of treating other people well.
Yeah.
But what
You know what?
I'm involved in a political party, right?
Yeah.
So that's politics.
Yeah.
Right? So setting aside whether individuals are virtuous, right?
Yeah.
The question is, how does the whole society work? How does the system work?
Can I
And
stop you for a
what
second?
behavior does it
I just need
require?
to stop you for a second.
Mhm.
We're done.
We're done?
We're done.